The American dream now feels like a buy now, pay later scheme, enticing and full of promise at first, but the bill always comes due, and for many, it's arriving faster and heavier than ever before. We're a nation drowning in over $17 trillion of household debt. Credit cards, mortgages, student loans, and car loans. Every swipe, every signature, every loan approval adds another drop to the rising tide. The economy looks strong on the surface, with bustling cities and new homes. But beneath it, more Americans are quietly falling behind on payments, struggling to keep up. Delinquency rates are rising past pre-pandemic levels, quietly hitting families everywhere. Missed payments and mounting late fees are becoming the new normal for millions. This isn't just about people living beyond their means, it's a systemic crisis, woven into the fabric of our financial system. The pressures are everywhere, affecting people from all walks of life. The cost of everything has exploded: groceries, gas, rent, and healthcare, while wages crawl upward at a snail's pace, barely keeping up with inflation. The gap between what things cost and what people earn is being filled with debt. Credit cards and loans have become lifelines, but they come with a heavy price. Lenders are eager to hand out loans, knowing many will struggle to pay them back. Easy credit is everywhere, but the consequences are often hidden until it's too late. This isn't just an individual problem, it's a threat to the entire economy. When families can't pay, businesses suffer, and communities feel the strain. These loans are chopped up, repackaged, and sold to investors in a complex, opaque market. The risk is spread, but never truly disappears. Sound familiar? It's the same playbook that led to the 2008 financial crisis, a cycle of easy money, risky bets, and eventual collapse. Trusted companies are suddenly collapsing, sending shockwaves through the system. Jobs vanish overnight, and retirement savings evaporate. The tremors in household budgets could be the warning signs of a much larger economic earthquake. When families can't afford the basics, the whole system is at risk. The American dream is at risk, not just for individuals, but for the entire country. What was once a promise of prosperity now feels like a struggle for survival. We're all standing on shaky ground, hoping the next step doesn't send us tumbling into crisis. You'd think safe companies, rated by experts and trusted by big banks, would actually be safe. But recent collapses, like OL Holdings and First Brands Group, proved otherwise. These weren't obscure firms, they were major players, considered stable and well-run. Their sudden failures left Wall Street stunned and exposed how risk can be hidden and repackaged until disaster strikes. They operated in asset-backed lending, supposedly a boring, predictable market. But tangled in complex financial instruments and private equity, even safe assets became risky. Their collapse is a direct result of the pressures facing ordinary families, and it makes life harder for everyone else. We're all caught in this vicious cycle. Take OL Holdings, operating under the name OK Cars. Yes, that's really what they called themselves, and their lots popped up in neighborhoods across the city. Their business model was simple: offer car loans to people with low credit scores, often focusing on underserved Hispanic and immigrant communities who had few other options. On the surface, it seemed like a golden opportunity, a chance for families to finally own a car and improve their lives. But beneath the smiles and handshakes, the reality was far more sinister. OK Cars sold used vehicles at inflated prices, tacking on sky-high interest rates that made monthly payments nearly impossible to keep up with, trapping families in a cycle of debt. For many, a car isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline for work, school, and daily life. OL Holdings knew this, and they used it to their advantage, locking people into loans they could barely afford. But the story doesn't end there. These risky loans were bundled together and sold to investors on Wall Street, spreading the risk far beyond the dealership's parking lot. When inflation soared, gas prices spiked, and government stimulus checks stopped coming, families started missing payments, defaults surged, and the financial house of cards began to wobble. The business model that once seemed so profitable collapsed almost overnight, and OL Holdings went under, leaving chaos in its wake. Banks and investors lost millions, but the real victims were the families. People who lost their cars, their savings, and their credit scores, all in one devastating blow. The collapse left thousands stranded, forced to walk or rely on public transit, with damaged credit and even deeper debt than before. It's a brutal reminder: when subprime markets fail, it's always the most vulnerable who pay the highest price, while those at the top often walk away unscathed. Wall Street gambles with numbers, but it's Main Street that suffers the real consequences: lost jobs, closed businesses, and broken dreams. For many, the dream of stability was always fragile, one bad loan away from disaster. OL Holdings' story is part of a bigger crisis, a surge in vehicle repossessions. After a pandemic pause, repossessions are up nearly 30% in some areas. Each one represents a family losing their lifeline to work, school, and daily life. Young people and working-class families are hit hardest. Gen Z is seeing record repossessions. Losing a car isn't a minor setback. It can mean job loss, pulling kids from daycare, or falling into poverty. Lenders know this and use the threat of repossession as leverage. Technology makes it worse. GPS trackers and remote shutoff devices let lenders disable cars with a click. Miss a payment and your car won't start. It's not just about collecting debt, it's about control. The system strips people of autonomy and dignity, all to protect lenders' profits. In America, losing your car can mean losing everything. Why are so many people suddenly unable to afford their cars? It's a perfect storm. First, inflation. Essentials like food, rent, and gas have surged, breaking family budgets. Second, car prices. Pandemic shortages sent new and used car prices soaring. People took out bigger loans for overpriced cars, often ending up underwater, owing more than the car is worth. Third, interest rates. The Fed's hikes mean higher monthly payments, especially for subprime borrowers. Average rates on used car loans now top 11%. For some, it's over 20%. These forces have created an affordability crisis. People were pushed into bad deals, and now they're squeezed from all sides. The financial system encouraged this, handing out loans freely. Now the sugar high is gone and millions are left with crushing debt. This crisis isn't just bad luck, it was enabled by policy choices in Washington. During the Trump administration, consumer protections were dismantled, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was weakened, and rules against predatory lending were rolled back. Lenders got the message. The cops are off the beat. In auto lending, protections against discrimination were repealed, fueling risky, high-cost loans. At the same time, policies drove up costs for working families while benefiting corporations and the wealthy. The result? Life got more expensive and the rules meant to protect people disappeared. The system was rigged to favor lenders and left ordinary Americans exposed. If OL Holdings showed the human cost, First Brands Group revealed the hidden dangers in the financial system. First Brands made car parts, not loans, but their bankruptcy exposed massive risks in asset-backed lending. Companies use assets as collateral for loans, which should be safe for lenders, but when First Brands failed, the collateral was worth far less than claimed. A mirage. Private equity ownership made things worse, using debt and creative accounting to extract value while hiding risk. When the company collapsed, banks discovered their safe loans were anything but. This isn't a one-off problem, it's systemic. The shadow banking system is full of hidden risks, and the fallout can spread fast. The collapse was a wake-up call. The system is far more fragile than it appears. We're all standing on a debt iceberg. OL Holdings and First Brands aren't just isolated failures. These collapses are early warning signs, flashing red for anyone paying attention to the financial system. They're warnings for the entire $1.5 trillion asset-backed lending market, a sector that quietly underpins much of the American economy. This market acts as the invisible engine of our financial world, providing essential credit that allows companies to grow, hire, and innovate. Without it, businesses would struggle to survive. But now, risk is being hidden and misunderstood, thanks to the rise of shadow banks and private equity firms operating behind closed doors, away from public scrutiny. When one company fails, the losses don't just stay contained, they ripple outward, setting off a chain reaction that can destabilize the entire system. Pension funds, insurance companies, and banks, institutions that millions rely on, are all exposed to these risks, often without realizing just how vulnerable they are. It's the same dynamic that triggered the 2008 financial crisis, when hidden dangers suddenly came to light and panic swept through the markets. Today, the pressures on everyday consumers aren't easing. Cracks in corporate debt are widening, and more families are feeling the strain as layoffs and bankruptcies increase. Regulators are struggling to keep up with a system that's been deliberately designed to be opaque, making it nearly impossible to spot trouble before it's too late. The failures of OL Holdings and First Brands have pulled back the curtain, exposing a dangerous reality that many would rather ignore. The foundation of this massive lending market is unstable, built on risky loans and complex financial products that few truly understand. The question isn't if another collapse will happen, but when. Time is running out to address these vulnerabilities. And if the dominoes start falling, the consequences could be catastrophic, spreading far beyond Wall Street to every corner of the country. The American economy is more fragile than we think, and the impact could be felt in small towns and big cities alike. The real question is, are we truly ready for what comes next, or are we simply hoping the worst won't happen again?